This is Karen Shaneman. Carmen Bowman and I would like to welcome you to the video called How to Complete the Artifacts of Culture Change 2.0 and Assisted Living. Now I'd like to discuss how to get ready to complete the artifacts of culture change, especially the duties of leaders. So unless your home or community is already expert in culture change, there's a great need to educate on culture change, resident-directed living, and the role of the artifacts tool. So after that, then the next step is to assemble a standing culture change committee, unless you already have one. A high-level manager needs to lead and convene the committee, which usually has members from all shifts, departments, teams, and residents and families are invited. Once the committee's formed, then more education needs to be done. This is specific about the artifacts, that it represents concrete changes that culture-changing homes have made to such things as their policies and practices and environment. You need to discuss the mission of the committee to review all the practices represented on the tool and to decide where the home or community is for each practice. That is it fully implemented, partially implemented, or not a current practice? Those are the three choices for each practice on the Artifacts tool.
And here is the Artifacts of Culture Change for Assisted Living, the tool itself on the left, and then its corresponding guidance for assisted living on the right. What we recommend is that you study these tools. Give your committee both the form as well as the guidance document. Give them time to review it. You might draw attention to the various 5 sections, how items are grouped together, how they relate to each other. You might want to draw their attention to how it works on the guidance document. So you see in item 1, here inside of the item is an asterisk. And then if you come look over here on the guidance document, it also reflects item number 1. And then you see here at the asterisk, it explains and gives more detail regarding that item. Also on the nursing home tool, you will notice here will show you one that some items reference CMS tag numbers because there is information there right in the regulation or the CMS guidance that supports those items. The ACC is long and it will likely need, more than one discussion over time. Also, you could certainly do this during meetings, or you could give people time separately to digest it and come back together for the meeting. And we do want to remind you that the tool is designed to be completed by an entire community. So that means the entire nursing home or the entire assisted living. It is really not designed for just one neighborhood or one house or one household.
So the next thing the committee needs to do is figure out how to proceed in filling out the lengthy artifacts tool. The committee may decide, as a suggestion, to sit together in a series of meetings and work on the items, or perhaps individual members will take a paper copy of the tool and put their check marks on separately and bring them back to a later meeting. Since the tool is long, there are some subsections, and a home or community may decide to let's just work on one section at a time in group and decide on the answers. Some practices may be simple to answer, such as the answers, do we have it, do we not have it, or partially are the 3 choices. So for an example, do we have culture change sections of performance evaluations? That one's probably pretty easy to figure out. Some practices are a little more complex and a little more widespread, and the team may need some research to determine if what we think we have, do we really have it? For example, a practice on the tool is, are we honoring natural awakening for residents? Are team members aware of it and assist?
So then you would want your committee to come back and now discuss in detail whether or not each item is fully implemented, partially implemented, or not a current practice, and you would want everyone to agree. And here are some examples. So for fully implemented, let's say all team members are very aware of a practice and use it in their work. That would be fully implemented. Or a policy is in place and explains a practice that is happening. Or all residents are aware of a practice and do experience it regularly. And then some examples of partially implemented. Let's say you're working on implementing a practice, but it is not fully implemented yet. That's pretty obvious. Perhaps something is taking place in only certain sections of your building, and it's not house-wide, so to speak. Or let's say policies are being written, but the practice is not yet implemented. Please feel free to judge those as partially implemented.
So next I'd like to discuss fully and partially. If the team is questioning for a specific item on the tool, whether this one is fully implemented or partially, a good best practice is to ask, can we do better in this? If that's true, then the practice is likely partially implemented. So after consensus is reached on all of the practices, the check marks in each column are added up and placed in the totaling grid at the end of the ACC. A percentage is then calculated for each column, and this is intended to help organizations set goals as well as to assess progress over time. So the next step is deciding what to do next. So the review has pretty much been completed by the Culture Change Committee, and the discussions that have been had most likely reveal there are some practices on this tool that we don't have and we'd like to have. There may be many. The tool is quite long, but never worry, they can be prioritized into what can we do now? What can we do next? And then what do we save for later? What needs more information or education before we can even begin? This is the time the committee can turn to the resource links on the Pioneer Network website, which provides helpful links to information on some of the more complex practices on the tool. While all this is going on, it's time to go big and let everybody know. Let the teams and residents and families know about what was discovered during the artifacts process and what's going to happen next. What are the practices that are planned for changes?
And here's what it looks like online. We do invite you to complete the tools online, and then the system will tally it for you and give you your percentages. We also want to show you that for each item that has resources, we now have a link, and the link will go to what we are calling resource pages. And what we mean by resources would be if there is any book or article or training or website or even a video or webinar within the Pioneer Network website, we are going to link you to anything that may be of assistance in learning about a practice and then implementing the practice. For instance, let's say your committee has a great desire to learn more about having a dog or a cat live in the building. You would just take the link over to the resource page and find a lot of practical help in implementing that practice.
So completing the artifacts of culture change is now leading to some changes being made in policies and practices. The committee is going to decide how to proceed with the practices they want to change. This could be, as a suggestion, developing project teams to study how to proceed with changing a practice. Periodically then, the Culture Change Committee meets to discuss the progress of the changes and to celebrate accomplishments and maybe pick out something next to do.
To make change is an ongoing process, so we recommend that you keep an eye on those practices that you decided were only partially implemented or not yet a practice at all. Certainly it's fun to listen to your team and your committee talk about, ooh, I wish we had that. Typically, if there's the obvious next practice, it kind of bubbles to the top. You could certainly take a vote, and we recommend to keep your teams, your residents, your families in the loop. Let them know what's happening, what's in progress, inviting their comments and feedback, and certainly celebrate your victories. Thank you for watching.